This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning. Chicago's Morning Answer. Eric Kohn and Joe Kaiser filling in today for Dan and Amy. Be a part of the program with us at 312-642-5600 or text us at 64636 to be a part of the program today. So Illinois, as we talked about with State Representative Alan Skillicorn, could be facing a load of new taxes. It's already one of the most expensive states that you can live in. There's a lot to say about Chicago, a lot to say about Illinois. I grew up downstate. I've lived in the central part of the state. I've lived in Chicago as well. And there's some great parts to this state, but a lot of people, because of the burdens they face, are deciding to head for the exits. They continue to do so at a pace that is unabated. The problem continues to worsen. And to get a sense of the gravity of this problem, just how bad it is, what it means for people who are still here going forward, we're joined now by Bryce Hill, who is a research analyst at the Illinois Policy Institute. Thanks for joining us, Bryce. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So how serious is the problem? I know recent census data is out. What did the census data show, and what does it mean?
So, yeah, recent census data is out, and it basically shows that in the year since the permanent income tax hike, so July 2017 through July 2018, Illinois continued to lose population, making it the fifth straight year, and it saw its biggest population loss ever. So we lost 45,000 residents in total. That's second most in the country, behind only New York. And the primary reason for this is Illinoisans fleeing for other states. So we've lost one Illinoisan every 4.5 minutes for the past year, meaning that nearly 115,000 Illinoisans have chosen states other than the land of Lincoln for their homes. And this is a trend that just keeps getting worse and worse, and is going to be even more important as our population ages and birth rates are nowhere near where they used to be. So outmigration is going to continue to drive population loss as long as we have poor public policy in the state.
And Bryce, who is leaving? Because I think there's an assumption always that will just exist that the biggest group leaving is retirees going to states like Florida and Arizona. And people are going to Florida and Arizona, but who specifically is leaving Illinois?
Yeah, so that's a big misconception. The primary driver for domestic outmigration isn't retirees. For Illinoisans, it's prime working age individuals, so that's people between 25 and 54. These are the people that are most likely to have families and be looking to plant down some roots, for some permanent roots for the future. So we're actually losing a very highly educated and vital part of the workforce. It's not just retirees moving to Florida or Arizona for the weather. It's people moving because they're looking for job opportunities and they haven't been able to find them.
And this is just amplifying the problem, because these are, the people who are upwardly mobile. They are the future taxpayers, the people who hopefully are going to be the entrepreneurial spirit of the state, who are going to create businesses here. So it's public policy, bad public policy, is what is informing people's decision to leave before it gets any worse for them, right?
Yeah. So when we look at the IRS data, it basically shows that for the last decade, the main reason why people have been leaving the state, over 59% of the people have left the state because of the state's poor labor market. So that basically goes to say that if it weren't for the state's labor market, if the state just performed like the average state, we wouldn't have seen population decline any of the last 5 years. And Illinois would continue to be growing, and we wouldn't be at risk of losing, one, potentially two congressional seats. We wouldn't have a higher unemployment rate than the rest of the nation. Wages wouldn't be growing slower here. It has a litany of factors that go into it. But it basically shows that the state's poor labor market, which is directly impacted by the state's poor public policies, that's the reason why people are leaving.
Have you looked into specifically at all what other states that have positive migration have done differently in the public policy front, or better yet, what Illinois could do differently on the public policy front that could turn the tide on migration?
Yeah, so when you look at the national trends, what you see is that for the past several years, and it was true again this year, residents have been going to states with more competitive tax environments. And so that's particularly important for the upcoming General Assembly and our new governor coming in, because over the past year, states with a progressive income tax lost 293,000 residents to other states. And meanwhile, states without any income tax gained 339,000 residents. So Americans are clearly choosing which tax environments they'd rather live in. And with the idea of a progressive income tax being one of the key pillars to Governor Pritzker's campaign, it's going to be particularly concerning given the fact that we keep losing residents year over year.
So, yeah, you just mentioned it there, what I was going to bring up. For people who go to illinoispolicy.org, not only do you and your colleague, Orphy Divongi, have a piece on out-migration in Illinois, you also have another piece up about the progressive tax idea, calling it 2019's worst policy idea for Illinois' middle class, which goes to explain that progressive taxes, as much as they are sold as a tax on the wealthy, tend to creep down into the pockets of the middle class, which are a lot of the same people you're talking about who are already leaving, right?
That's definitely true. So, yeah, that piece looks at just the history of the progressive tax at the national level with the federal progressive tax, but also at the state level with many of our surrounding states who it's been said that we should try to look more like. And what we often see is that while when they're introduced, the rates may seem like they're low and that, you know, maybe the rich are paying their quote-unquote fair share, what clearly happens is that over time those tax brackets get extended, and most of the time, in many cases, the lowest tax bracket that the low-income people in the state are paying today is higher than the tax rate that the high income were paying originally. So it almost always ends up being a tax hike on the vast majority of people who the tax affects. So it's just another reason why we shouldn't enact a progressive tax in Illinois. I mean, we already know how untrustworthy many Illinois politicians are. So to give them the power to say one thing and then do another, it just isn't a good idea. We should keep the constitutionally protected flat income tax.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The question that Illinoisans need to ask themselves is, to what degree do you trust the state legislature that if they're going to make the promise to you that it's like this is going to be a tax on the wealthy, on the J.B. Pritzkers of Illinois and the Bruce Rowners of Illinois, it's not going to reach you? How much do you trust them, considering it was only last year, 2017, that there was a permanent income tax increase? So to what degree do you trust them?
Exactly, and there haven't been any rates given. And the most recent proposal before that raised taxes on everybody making more than $17,300. So congratulations, if you make more than that, you're rich.
I think you nailed it right there. Bryce Hill, he is a research analyst with the Illinois Policy Institute, illinoispolicy.org. Bryce, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.